This is a burden for our kingdom brand leaders and masterpiece makers because where do you actually show up?
The messenger is just as important as the message. If you're trying to reach a more mature audience, use SMS even. People forget that SMS is actually like a good way to communicate with people.
Building a kingdom brand isn't just about showing up. It's about showing up strategically where the people God called you to serve are already listening. It just has to be intentional. Hello, masterpiece makers. Welcome to the special series of our Making a Masterpiece podcast, Build Your Brand. And guys, we have been in the journey of navigating the Kingdom Brand Compass in this last few episodes and in this series. And now we are talking about the west pillar of our compass, the media. And of course, with our very, very special co-host for this series, Bennie Smith Jr. Hello, Bennie. How are you?
Hola. Excited to be a man.
Yes, Bennie. Let's kick this thing off. I just wanted to ask you first, what is your favorite social media platform?
Oh, the app I will say I spend most time on, believe it or not, is VSCO, right? But it's not really for social media, right? It's like just for photo editing, and then there's a community on there, and you get to like get inspired and so forth. But controversially, people won't think of this as a social media presence, but I will actually challenge it because it's actually very, very necessary for your business. Pinterest.
I agree.
The amount of times like especially my sister and I and a few of my team collaborators, like the most conversations we have is within the Pinterest inbox. So we like see an idea, we'll create a board and then just like forward stuff back and forth to each other. So Norbert, send me your Pinterest link, man. I think like we also need to move our conversations there.
Yes, I do have a Pinterest account. And speaking of accounts, I know that there's so many social media accounts popping up, and it feels like one is coming out every single day with all the new things that's going on. And Bennie, there is this overwhelm with media and social media, and in particular. And I know that as businesses and as brands, this is a burden for our kingdom brand leaders and masterpiece makers because where do you actually show up?
Yeah.
And this is exactly why we're having this conversation. We will try to help you understand the power of choosing the right media and how it's not about just being visible, but being strategic about this decision because it affects everything, your message, your budget, your energy, and everything under the sun. Okay.
100%. I want to jump in here. I think this is important is like you could have a message from heaven. Like, let me use Moses. Who do you deliver this message to, right? The media presence for me essentially is who. It's all going to depend on that factor. It's for who is this for? And then you're going to ask yourself, where are they? Right? That's as simple as I can just quickly give an introduction on that. Everything needs to go towards people, man. If there's one thing that's consistent about business across everything is that we're working with people. Find out where those people are. Are you showing up where people actually listen? I'll say like Norbert likes to use this phrase, the messenger is just as important as the message. Can you unpack that? Why is media not just a marketing decision? Like, why is it also a spiritual decision?
That's a very good question. I think that the messenger is as important as the message because imagine you have like a very important message to tell your audience, or for example, you have a very urgent message to your family member, and then you discover that you sent it to the wrong address. You just doesn't work, right? So you miss the whole point. And that is why the choice of media is very important.
Sorry, I just imagine you sending a message to your family member, like with an important thing, and you end up like in their spam, you know?
Yeah. Or even when you send a message to your wife and it was the wrong...
Oh. Dude. The data bundles are gone and you thought it went through and it just didn't go. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so this is very important. To answer your question, why is it a spiritual thing? Because I remember when I was praying about the Kingdom Brand Compass and how this all is coming through, I think this was the last portion of the compass that clicked to me when I was praying and designing the compass, because I remember sitting there and thinking, okay, God, like, how do we, all the elements of basic marketing are there. Like, this is important, but like, where do we encourage the brands with like media and stuff? The problem is real. Media is noisy. The choices are overwhelming, and sometimes it's too much that you don't want to do anything about it anymore, because trends are really, really like fast, and it's almost impossible to keep up. You're still producing one thing and the next one comes up. So I was praying like, God, like, show me in scripture what you think about media and why is it important to you? And you know what? It was so funny because the nature of God, he's always answering at least me in sort of like a different way, in the not the way that I always expect him to show up. So I was pointed to 2 Corinthians 5:19. It says, for God was in Christ, reconciling the world to himself, no longer counting people's sin against them, and he gave us this wonderful message of reconciliation. And I read that verse and I'm like, pause, and then suddenly my eyes just go big and I just go to that phrase of like reconciling the world through Christ. And I'm like, oh my Lord. Like, God himself needed a very important medium to bring the world back to him. And he chose Jesus to do that. And if God chose the right media, if we can call that, the analogy is there, it means that his messenger is equally important as the message, because Jesus
became flesh.
The word became flesh, right?
Yeah.
And this is where I believe that the heart of our choice for engagement with our audience is very important. And to connect. And you know what? Honestly, it has lifted the pressure, because then it's not about, okay, I need to be on TikTok because everybody's there. All the people I'm following, all my friends, all the, they are there, but I have no idea how to do it. I'm not like this kind of dancing person. Not that TikTok's all about dancing and stuff, but like, it just doesn't feel natural to me. So when I read that God chose Jesus as the messenger, that reflects so much about God's heart. And this is why media matters, that our right choice of media is very important.
The right messenger will carry the weight of the mission, right? And when you broadcast it on the wrong channel, it can just cancel that impact completely. And that's how important this is. This is seed planting, Where are you throwing the seeds? You want to get the harvest. And if you're casting the seeds on soil that's not being fruitful, then that's why we're having this discussion. We got to make sure that we land in the right place.
So, yes. And speaking about that, Benny, the overwhelm and the noise of media, what do you think about brands who automatically, and of course they are able to do this when you have resources and stuff, automatically jump into trends? Like, even if it's very different from what they're doing, but they try to twist it just to go viral. I know a lot of our masterpiece makers kind of like feel this pressure that they need to go viral, that they need to follow a certain trend just to be relevant. Like, what, in your experience as well in our world, have you experienced this? And what was the effect of brands just chasing trends?
Imagine you are sitting at a campfire and everybody's having a discussion. And in this discussion, you're trying to make a point and you're trying to bring the presence of leading the discussion somewhere. And then the next moment, somebody jumps up, they do a dance just randomly, and they sit down, and you want to continue the discussion. Okay, so
there's that one person.
One person. No, but that's the thing. Like, trends for me is I enjoy the creativity of this generation. I enjoy the creativity of the stuff that comes forth, but it doesn't carry weight, man. Here's the thing, in the essence of building brands, trends don't build trust. Right? And in essence, what we're always trying to do through our communication and connection is that you want to build trust. So what does build trust? Consistency. If you're going to be the person that wants to build a brand off of trends, then you're going to have to consistently keep doing that. And it's probably a formula that works for some people, but I can tell you, you're going to burn out. You're going to spend more time building trends than building a business and building a brand. So focus on the things that actually build connection. Focus on the things that build trust. And for me, like as a believer, I'm always convicted with that. Do not conform to the pattern of the world, but be transformed, right? To know what is perfect and what is well-serving and what is pleasing unto God. And so for me, that's the thing of like, when we're building business, media is where you put your faith into form. You put your message into being visible. And if you are only visible within the trend, if you're only visible within the thing that's now relevant but no longer relevant tomorrow, then that is what you become. You are going to be relevant now and unrelevant. But if you build a connection with people that is consistent, that actually has substance and foundation, we all love and depend on the friends and the people that we don't speak for them for like maybe 2 weeks, but when we reach out to them again, they're still consistent.
Yeah,
you know, like
true.
that's good connection. That's good trust. And that's the relationship you want people to have within you. It's like, I might not always need your service, but when I do, I know that you are consistent.
You're there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that, because I love what you said, that our choice of media should reflect our brand's ability and our brand's intentionality to build trust, because that's so true. Hey, like, you cannot just bark on the wrong tree. You cannot just be like omnipresent in everything, actually not hitting anything, because you're so concerned about being present in everything. Bennie, in your practice, like when a client comes to you and tells you like, hey, we saw this trend, I think it applies to us. Can you do something? And we want to go viral. Can you help us with? What is your first reaction to that? And how do you navigate that situation?
How much does it pay? Look, at the end of the day, we have to serve what our clients want, right?
Yes.
My initial response, what I try to build with my partners and clients from the beginning, is that we understand what is the mission and what is the mandate behind this, first of all. If that request comes up, then my first response is, all right, what are we serving this in? And sometimes you can go with it. For some clients, we've done this before. In fact, it's a trend that launched my business. It was the Jerusalem challenge that launched my business.
Yes.
But when we did the challenge, it wasn't about the trend. When we did the challenge, it was actually about encouraging the brand morale within the company. That whole thing was an opportunity for us actually to get people, because it started in the first part of the pandemic, 2020, and it was the Jerusalem challenge. And what was happening, people were so burnt out. The company that we were doing it for, like, they were one of the essential services that needed to go forth. But in the midst of all of this, with all the policies and everything like that, people felt burnt out. So this company saw the trend and they said, okay, we're going to do this. But when we showed up, we saw, oh man, this isn't about going viral online. This is about like building the internal brand culture. It's about getting the employees' morale executed.
Going viral was just a bonus then.
Was a bonus, 100%, because the authenticity of what people were experiencing is what made it go viral, right? Because people looked at that video and they saw like, wow, people look so happy and it's real and all that, versus just like copying the dance moves and doing the thing like that. And so what I'm saying is, sometimes doing something might be a net gain versus like a loss. But that's why I said, if my clients approach me and ask me, we want to do this, my question is, why? Right? Is, okay, cool, we want to follow the trend. And if that is the focus, then it's like, okay, cool. How does that serve your mandate? How does that serve your mission? So that is always where we have to go back into reflection, because the world is noisy. And if we're just adding to the noise, then you're just going to be noise. But if you can add substance to the thing, and sometimes adding substance is just being consistent. That's what I'm saying. Consistency will always beat trends. It will always outweigh, and you're going to measure it through the fruit. And so with that, I want to ask, do you maybe have a story? Can you share a moment where you like picked the right or maybe even the wrong media channel, media basis in trying to present fruit, because that's what the thing needs to come to, is that it's not always just what you do, it's also where you do it. Because sometimes I feel people have the right substance, they have the right thing to present, But the point is you're on the wrong place. So you can do
Yeah.
a trend, but then you can do it in the wrong place. You can take the seeds and you do it very well. Like you've got good seeds. Let's say you're a dance school. Then trends are going to be super easy for you, right?
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
but then where are you? If you're posting it on the wrong place, if you're feeding it in the wrong area, then you're not going to see the impact. We had something like that where we had a ballerina type thing.
Mhm.
And you think, cool, these guys, they're able to do these dancing talents, all that. But the way that they're spreading their message is just by shooting videos and WhatsApping it to people, right?
Ah.
So it's like, you guys know that there's a whole world outside of your inbox, right?
Years ago, I started a personal journey to help provide professional creative communication solutions to brands born out of faith and big dreams, but running on limited resources. Before finding my true calling in ministry, I was an advertising professional, and I always felt frustrated whenever a great idea, product, service, or community initiative didn't take off simply because branding wasn't a priority. I've seen too many faith-oriented entrepreneurs and nonprofit leaders make this mistake because they don't have access to professional creative services, or they are put off by the high cost and consumerist approach. I decided to use my experiences in mainstream advertising and in ministry to bridge the gap. The result is a 6-module branding course that can help transform brands, effectively tell their stories, reach their audience, and help them achieve their goals. Teaching this to business owners and leaders, I've seen it transform confusing concepts into real brands that cut through the noise and make real everyday impact. I believe that brands can be a blessing to the world, solving problems and easing burdens, fueled by passion and driven by purpose. That is what we aim to do with Masterpiece Kingdom Brands. If this resonates with you and you're ready to uncover your Kingdom brand, let's connect. Sign up for the Masterpiece Kingdom Brand Building course today.
Being on the wrong media channel, it could affect your reach. And I'm sure you have something similar, right?
I have a very simple example that I will never forget because it's when TikTok just recently came out, and it was probably not so new, but it was just starting to gain popularity. And I have this small brand, and I remember that the owner was telling me, man, how do you do this TikTok thing? This is so crazy. And everybody's dancing, but I'm not going to dance. Like, this is not me. And I was like, why do you even think about this? Their business was catered to elderly people, And I'm like, it's okay. Nobody's going to be there on TikTok. Your market is not there, so you don't have to obsess with that. And what I would suggest is that you actually put an ad on the local newspaper because they will be reading the paper on the weekend and they will most likely see you there. And she was like, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, right? Like, I think it's important to understand that our media must match the behavior of our market and not just trends, because the point is to reach them. The point is to know where they are. So it changed the game. I mean, just shifting the same message, shifting into the actual media where it is useful, and it works. She was so relieved that she doesn't have to dance. And I'm like, of course you don't have to dance. That's
a win-win.
Nobody is asking you to dance, especially if that's not naturally what you do. And I would love to tell our masterpiece makers to also give them permission to just choose the media platform that feels natural to you. You don't have to pretend that you are this and that. It's not sustainable at all.
And it's also not a one-size-fits-all.
Yes.
You got to know what suits you.
Absolutely. So we talked about like choosing media in the noisy, competitive world. Many entrepreneurs feel the pressure to be everywhere at once. What would you say to someone who's overwhelmed by all the media options out there?
You have to have contextual obedience instead of like just trying to perform the whole time. But like I said earlier, some people are just trying to create performative noise, like, hey, this thing, like you got to know and I say this respectfully, you got to know your position in place. And when I say that, I don't say like you got to sit down or something. It's like, as a business, you need to know where you're positioned. And it's because, going back to the analogy of the campfire thing where you sit down and talk and all that, it's that kind of conversation, and if everybody's talking the same noise and all that, and you're just jumping in into the same thing, it's just going to be noise. It's not going to stand out. But if you know, right, what I have to say, it's going to be for these people. What I have to offer is going to serve these people. Then that's the area where you're going to bring the most value. And especially you're going to do it more authentically. And so it's the same thing for me with social media. It's not a one size fits all. Sometimes you can be a Bennie, and one of my strong suits is that I'm a very adaptable person. So you can put me in any environment and I can fit in and make it like I can suit to it. But I won't stand out, and I won't be able to bring the full value that I can, essentially. And that for me is the same analogy when it comes to social media, is you got to know what platform suits you. An example is, I use the WhatsApp example for like the people that sent this video that went viral, like on WhatsApp. And I was like, if people ask me like, where did you see, like, Benny, have you seen this video? It's like, where? It's like, no, I'll WhatsApp it to you. And I was like, yeah, but where online would I have seen? No. People, I'm like, I'm never going to see it. If I'm not in that group of where it's being surfaced, then I'm never going to find it. I was not part of that campaign, so to speak. But then it's like, all right, what are you serving? I'll give my kind of like breakdown quickly of like what social media means for what market, So for me, it's, if you're trying to reach the elderly community, and don't be offended if you're on this, if you're trying to reach a more mature audience, use Facebook. Use SMS even. Like, people forget that SMS is actually like a good way to communicate with people. Some people in their 40s, 50s, they don't like opening up WhatsApp. They just text message. Like, listen, some of you might want to fax people. Like, you might reach that market. But the point is, SMS people. There's radio. If you're trying to reach a mature audience, most of them are probably going to be listening to the radio anyway. And people forget these things. They only think of the social media platforms. But these are the media outlets that you can communicate through. If you're trying to reach a younger audience, obviously TikTok is the craze right now. But even when you're there, you need to know like what your presence there is. Don't fall into the trends. Build your presence the way that you need to build your presence, which again, point is to connect. All of these things is to connect. So with young people, it's TikTok, it's YouTube Shorts. There's Discord. People actually forget that you actually have Discord. And that means you have to create a server and you're going to create conversation with people. But that's what people are looking for. They're looking for that connection. So with young creators, you have that. And if you're trying to reach a more mature audience, that, how do I say, like young mothers, if I can make that a market.
As an example.
Is like Facebook groups. And not just Facebook, but you have to go and create a Facebook group, because that's where they want to have conversations. And those conversations, people tag them and they connect there. I talked about like Pinterest being my favorite social media platform. How many times do you go and you pin things to boards? And then think to yourself, what if that thing that I'm pinning to my board was my thing? What if there are people that are looking to add me into their mood board, or they're trying and add me to their, like, when I go to Germany, these are the places I'm going to go visit. You're not, and that's people's references where they go back to. And then you have Instagram, which I would say is like a very good broad place for most brands to be right now, because it reaches far, and it's also the medium that is quickly shareable across all Meta's mediums, meaning Facebook and Messenger, and even if you want to share things to WhatsApp. If you're trying to reach more locally, then WhatsApp. And like, I know that's not going to be applicable in every place, but again, that's why I say you have to find where the people are. Where I'm from here in Namibia, people use WhatsApp like stories as their way of marketing and connecting with people. Print. People forget that print is still a real thing, So print, please, everything you do, print, get the QR code, like people scan it and it puts people there. Coffee, sleeves, t-shirts, events, product tags, like use everything, it, right?
Yeah, that's true, because I think what is important actually when choosing media is that we understand our strategic presence, either digitally or in the environment, that we are intentional about being strategic. when wherever we put our footprints on and against the noisy environment. And I think I would also suggest, Benny, to our masterpiece makers, given all these social media platforms, it's just to choose one or two and do it well. Don't try to be in everything. Just pick
Yes.
one or two, especially when you're starting out, where you feel most familiar with and comfortable, and then do it very well and stay consistent. Show up there
Yes.
consistently.
Keep the message
Yeah,
the same.
absolutely. And then you get the chance to be good at this and then mix it up with other forms of media, whether it be traditional media, when you go on the local newspaper, even your own like signage outside your office. Like these are forms of media. And just to mention this, in the course, in the Kingdom Branding course, in the media module, we will discuss and teach you and expose you to all kinds of media that is available for you to have a more informed and to give you a better picture, to give you a more informed decision on these things. Because the choice of media really affects your energy, your capacity to communicate and connect with people, and your budget. Because
Yes.
when you start to speak and when you start, there are free stuff, but then if you want to reach more, then you need to invest in advertising. And then that's a whole different game. So we're going to also teach you the principles on how to do your media budget so that you don't go overboard and you don't go crazy as well. So yeah, and this is why we're so passionate about media, not because, it's cool or it's trendy, but because it really affects the growth of our business. And again, if we go back to our first example, if Jesus did not even come, like I would have, it was just disaster.
And adding to that is, again, even when Jesus comes, the gospel didn't change, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
message stayed the same. But Paul still wrote letters to some people. And then to some people, he went and actually went to go physically visit them. And
Yeah.
so that being the mediums. But the mediums were all spirit led. And again, invite God into that
Amen.
decision, into what you're choosing to do there. And so don't just jump into the marketing madness. Be strategic, be intentional about it, and really allow the Holy Spirit to lead you in it. What would you say to entrepreneurs? Like, there's some of us, they're trying to be everywhere. And that's what I want to say. What would you say to entrepreneurs who feel like they have to be everywhere at once, and yet they still want to be taken seriously, which I feel like is, what's the word? Oxymoron in this discussion.
Well, first of all, we cannot play God. We cannot be everywhere. That's just the reality. We are not omnipresent. We are nothing near that. And
Yeah.
I'm glad we don't, because that means we can focus. So again, I think I would just really encourage our masterpiece maker to just be present
Yeah.
in one or two media platforms and do it well. Be excellent in that, grow in that. And it's fine. Do not let the noise drown you and overwhelm you, pressure you, because eventually, and I think this is why it's important that I love what you said, Benny, that we partner with the Holy Spirit, because once you grow, the Spirit will also lead you there. It will come naturally, and it will feel more peaceful. It will feel like light. It's not going to be because you feel the pressure to perform. It's always, the mindset will probably be more like, okay, how do I extend the message to help more people? But that doesn't come out of pressure and performance, right? It really comes from a place of blessing, a place of lifting people's burdens and stuff. And that's where we're here for. So I
Yes.
think we cannot sacrifice our peace and sanity just to succumb to the marketing noise. We're kingdom people. We are counterculture anyway. We are not of this world, but we are in this world. But that's
Yes.
why we have to shine brighter. The mediums are there. We can use it for good and evil, but we will use it in the best way possible to honor God and to bring the message and to bring people closer to Him through our brands.
Yeah. Is the message is definitely the real thing. And because I'll tell you, from us who run a media business, media fatigue is a real thing, right? But it is always cured by mission clarity, right? If the message is still clear, it's worth going for. And I would say ask yourself, this is my encouragement on this, is ask yourself this when it comes to media. If everything collapsed, if everything, like, let's say no Wi-Fi, no likes, no platforms, what is the message that you would still share? And where would you go to share that message? And who would it still serve? Because that's the real media channel. If you can get the clarity on that, then you can use the rest as a scaffolding to reach the higher heights, to finish building this thing. But you need to have that essentially set, is knowing where would you go and who would you serve when all these other things kind of like had to fade out. So
Wow.
I would ask you to review that, and then from there, build the scaffolding of how else you want to reach others.
Amazing. Oh, this is such a good conversation. And Masterpiece Makers, we will leave you today with our challenge as expected and as promised in our series, because we want to really to help empower you to build your brand. I encourage you to go to our website. We have this thing called your social media presence quiz. We have this little assessment that we give our brands just to help them understand where they are currently in their relationship with social media as a brand. So it will reveal so much about your current state and how you approach things, and even give you insights on how you portray yourself and what your messaging is. And also, when you take this quiz, you will have actionable points after you get your assessment, because then it will give you suggestions on what to do and how you can elevate your brand, whether it's a personal brand or a small business. Go to masterpiecebrands.com/social media quiz. It's for free. Take that quiz and you'll get a score, and then you'll get equivalent of how you did. And I promise you, it will really help you understand your social media presence better and give you a better direction on how to elevate your brand. And hopefully, we are able to help you with. Okay, for today's episode, building a kingdom brand isn't just about showing up, it's about showing up strategically where the people God called you to serve are already listening. It just has to be intentional.
100%. Just be obedient, everyone. And show up where your people are, and show up with truth, and show up consistently, not for claps, not for clicks, but because obedience in obscurity still echoes in heaven. Like, do that. Yes.
Awesome. Masterpiece Makers, oh, this has been really, really cool. If you found our podcast series valuable, please, we would love to hear from you. We appreciate your comments, your suggestions. And if you forward this podcast to somebody who you feel like needs to hear this, please do give us a review or rate. That would mean a lot to us. It will really help us spread the word to more kingdom brands who need to hear our message. Thank you for joining us in this special podcast series. Thank you, Benny, for joining me, and we will continue to do this in the
It's a
next
privilege, man.
episodes. And Masterpiece Makers, thank you for being here. And again, I am your host, Norbert Elnar, and joining me, my co-host Benny Smith Jr. And this is the Making a Masterpiece podcast, wherein we are very obsessed to making sure we build your faith and inspire your business. Till next time. Bye bye.